Libby,
What?
good evening.
Oh, good evening.
Still not feeling amazingly well at the end
Look
of...
even worse.
Yeah, no, I really... Yeah. Um, but it's Friday night and we've watched Gridlock. Let me tell you something. Gridlock, I think, is one of my most beloved Doctor Who episodes, probably of all time, actually. And there's something a bit magical about it for me. And I'm really not entirely sure what it is, because I can pull it apart and I can sort of say what I think works about it. I think there's something magical about it, and I don't think I can quite get to what it is about it that really works. And I think for a long time I thought that I was alone in my feelings about it, and that the rest of fandom wasn't as bothered. But I think, and I'm going to do the research, I'm going to go and look, I always do. I think there might be a growing surge of love for Gridlock, because I genuinely feel there is something very special about it. I think that if we get the overarching stuff out of the way, I think Martha has a stronger showing in this episode than in the previous two. Some people disagree.
I was just going to say, I find her so annoying because she's like, she makes references to at least two references.
Yeah.
Where, like, someone says, "Oh, were you and the Doctor
Yeah.
together?" And she goes like, "Oh yeah, sometimes I think he likes me." Like, when, Martha? When? What point? You're reading the signals you want to read here.
Yeah.
He thinks he likes you. He quite clearly does not.
And
then the other time when she says something like, "Oh, taking me to the places where you took Rose. Oh, rebound much." Fuck off, Martha. You're not in the same league.
it's just travelled in time for you,
Yeah.
dude.
And also, like, you have this really big, good relationship with Rose. You are Johnny Come Lately, and you cannot hold a candle to Rose. So do one.
Okay. I, however, think Martha has a stronger showing here. But I have to agree with Lib in principle. I don't know whether it's Freeman's performance or just the structure of the programme. It is a problem. It's a problem with this series, and sadly, I think for me at least, the character of Martha struggles to recover. But that we'll talk about that as and when. Tennant has an interesting line where he says about he was showing off. And I think that's a really great line. Not in so much as it sets his relationship with Martha in much of a better light, but I do think it speaks to some of the flaws of the Tennant Doctor that will eventually come to haunt him. I can't wait till we get to that, but there we go, by the by. But anyway, and of course...
Sorry, I was going to say, you said that you find it quite a special episode. I don't get it, so I'm in the camp of completely not understanding what's special about it.
Okay, do you not like it at all?
I don't mind it, I just don't find it particularly interesting.
Okay. So, I think... Oh, and one last thing. Face of Boat. I don't think it's flawed at all. Face of Boat, You Are Not Alone, Nurse Haim. Wow, love it. Right. What makes Gridlock work for me is as follows. It would be very easy to see this as the cheapo episode, because it's the same set redressed over and over again. But that's exactly the sort of thing in Doctor Who that really speaks to me. Episodes like that where there's a constraint in the production of it, and as so often in artistic endeavours, something special happens, something magical happens because of that. Now, I don't know if I'm just misreading that, because there's obviously quite a few special effects shots here, and I don't know whether this was the banker episode to make sure that you could afford, I don't know what's coming, shed loads of toclophane later, spoiler, anyway, let's move on. But I find this whole concept, this sci-fi concept appeals to me. I think that it appeals to me because I don't particularly like to get stuck in traffic jams, but I can totally see how, unusually for an RTD episode, this does all click into place quite nicely. And yes, it is a big switch that we flick at the end to sort it all out, but that's fine as well, because ultimately, what we're doing here is exploring this really weird, niche, odd society that's kind of just happened and the ramifications of that. And in the midst of that, we get to experience what life is like for a quite decent, large amount of people, families, that's key actually, families, in these little caravan-y type spaces. Spoiler, I hate caravans. But how they make that work, and how, as I was going to say, as a species, and I don't want to exclude anybody from this, but I do think there's a certain Britishness to this episode, in so much as that sort of stiff upper lip. Well, we're in the traffic jam for another 6 years, but we'll cope. And I find that quite charming. I love the fact that we get to see Ardlo Hanlon as whatever it is, Brannigan. I love that character. I think he's an absolute gem.
It's very sweet.
He's a super
And the
stud.
kittens.
And the
oh,
kittens,
with his face.
the kidnappers, who were pretty ineffectual as crap. And quite frankly, you don't kidnap somebody and think, oh, we'll just see out these 6 years, have a baby en route. Having said that, that ties into the, we'll make the best of it. I was only joshing, let's have a cup of tea and crack on. The business suit guy at the bottom was just like, do you mind? Oh, I'll help you then. I love all that.
2 questions about the plot.
Yeah, go for it.
So one of them is, with regards to the kidnappers,
Yeah.
surely if you get down to the bottom for having 3 people,
Yeah,
presumably you could do the same if you had
a child.
3 or more.
Yeah,
So why aren't people doubling up in their cars
I don't know.
if they all want to go down to the
Would you want to spend 6 years in a car with somebody else that isn't
But
me?
isn't the
You don't
point-
want to spend it with
She
me.
said they were only travelling 5 miles.
Yeah, but then it takes forever to get to the other side. That's only the motorway.
Yeah, so the 5 mile bit though, and then she said, rumours you can get up to 30 miles an hour down there. So that'd be a 5-minute journey instead of several years.
Yeah,
of
but
life.
the implication is that you use the fast lane, then you come off on the slip road, and the slip road takes you another 3 or 4 years.
Fine, so I think there's a problem there because they are committing to this 5 miles of several years when they could all just go, let's just double up, get down, we can split up at the next one, whatever.
All right.
But also, the virus, so the people in the city, so the kidnappers were
Yeah.
living in the city,
Kidnappers live in the city.
and then they're like, we want to escape the city. Why are people not thinking, hold on, the virus is dead now?
Okay, but they didn't know about the virus, and that is
So why are they trying to escape the city?
because they want to go where the air smells of applegrass and there's free spaces to run around.
Even if they spend their entire life on a subway.
Well, they weren't going to
That
spend their
doesn't
entire.
make sense. Why doesn't someone go, let's just remake this city? That's why I think it's flawed.
Because it's the slums.
Yeah, but nobody would go. Well, yeah, but there is no other bit. The people that are living in the city.
No, there's the other, but that's the undercity. They make the distinction. That's the undercity, and then there's the, the skies are made of diamonds.
What are your opportunities to go upwards before your opportunity to go across
I
ways?
don't know, live in the suburbs. I don't know.
Right, you're in.
I love it. Okay, you get the macra. The macra
Terror.
of all the baddies. Good. Oh, nice. Well remembered.
I've got nightmares about it.
Well, of all the baddies to bring back the macra. That was a lovely move. And you get this sort of Gallifrey stuff, but there's the moments like the hymn, and I'm not religious, quite the opposite, but I just think that speaks to the resilience of humanity.
Is that not just how they control people?
You could argue that, but you could also argue that religion's the way that you control people. You could argue that all sorts of ways, but what we do as a species, we take strength from things, and that unification. Even if I don't think there's an intent to keep anybody trapped. This isn't an accident. It's a stupid accident to have happened, but it's nonetheless an accident. There's no real baddie in this. Even the macra are beasts in this. They just feed. They're an accident. This is just a circumstance that's come about by chance. And as a result, I just think there's a wholesomeness to this episode. There's a joy to it. And I think it's an absolutely lovely thing. I think that, I find it an absolute delight. I really, really do. So, clearly, there is a disagreement in this house about how good Gridlock is. Please tell me, but in the car down below, and then the car down below that, what you think of this story, because I genuinely think...
Wait, vote, is Pete right or his wife?
Is Libby correct or is Peter correct? But I find it an absolute delight, It's one of those episodes that I go to be honest, to feel better about things. I just think it's an absolute charm. I can't say. I struggle to articulate what it is about this story I just find as lovely as I do, but I do. And there we go. What more can I say? There are Doctor Who stories like that, aren't they, that you just find lovely? We've warbled enough. Farewell. Have a pleasant evening.